I presume every one of us has anticipate or feel any challenge when it comes to requirement gathering or requirement elicitation, especially with new projects, new stakeholders, or even business leader is on a first time meeting. Then we would wonder, how should we break the ice? How should we know the intention of getting those requirements? Some of us might jump straight into it and start doing the work. Some will have some nice introduction about ourselves, knowing the project, and then start getting the requirements. And on the fortune side is sometimes we get to join new projects. Everyone is scratch and fresh. And most of the time, which is, I would say, the challenging and unfortunate time, you are being assigned to existing project where the previous business analyst left, or you're handling the projects that which is in mid-fly, and you need to start gathering requirements, start working on all those details, where everyone is the old game player in the group, and you are the only newbie there. You will definitely find your challenge. So how are we going to break the ice, and how are we going to gather requirement effectively without making the whole discussion being tension? Okay, so as a neuro linguistic programming practitioner for the past 5 years, I found that some of the techniques that I have learned and being very useful in doing requirement gathering. Before that, before I start the whole session, I will give you some background. What is NLP? So that everyone has a better idea instead of saying a better understanding, because every one of us process information differently. So I would say we have a better idea. Okay, what is neuro linguistic programming? In the acronym neuro linguistic programming is also known as NLP. It's basically created by two gentlemen. I will leave this as a little task for you to go and find out who are these two gentlemen. And neuro-linguistic in simple manner help us to communicate better with other people, and also help us to use the language that other individuals or personnel would like to listen. When I say language, I'm not referring to what is known as English, Malay, Chinese, or other dialects. When I'm referring to languages, how each and every one of us process the language. Like, okay, neuro-linguistic language, you see the word neuro itself is talking about receptor, neural within our mind. It's like how we receive the information, that is a receptor. Linguistic itself is language. It doesn't refer or limit to the language you know. The language itself is how you would want to be communicate. And each of us have a very unique way of processing information or processing data. I'll give you a simple example. When we talk about an idea, some of us will like to use the word, I think that is a brilliant idea. Some of us will say, oh, that sounds like a brilliant idea. And some of us say, I see that is a brilliant idea. Can you see any difference with that? Anyone see any difference? Okay, the difference is some of us process information or receive information as an auditory person. We like to use descriptive words like sound. Does that sounds good to you? Some people always love to use those category of individuals. We know them as an auditorian. They love to use descriptive words that is related to sound. Some individuals, they are very feeling driven. So they will love to use words such as I think, I feel. These kind of individuals, they are more on kinesthetic. They are driven by feelings. And some of the individuals that processing information or data through see, they are the visual type of personnel. If you are, example, if you are talking to a person which is very auditory on processing information, and then you start using the words, can you see this picture that I'm painting to you? Then the person will start to say, I can't see anything. To him or to her, the way that information that's going into their mind, it's through sound. You need to speak the word of how it sounds to them. So neuro-linguistic programming is a very wonderful technique, I would say. And then it teaches us how to communicate with each other using the preference method. So how does it benefit from requirement gathering? As I've earlier mentioned, because different people prefer to speak differently and different people prefer to process information differently. So when we speak to them, we use the same language as them. Like as we know, we have three types of way of processing information, from visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So we try to use this kind of wordings that they prefer. Okay, so and NLP itself, aside from communication, is also a personal development. I'm not going to probe so much into those. And as I've just shared, it's an idea that language and behaviors are interconnected. We humans, we love to talk to people, we love to communicate with people, we share ideas. When we share ideas, we communicate through language. And we use unique techniques to change behavior by changing our language pattern. It sounds so mouthful. It's basically everyone's behavior can be changed if you use the right language pattern. Let me share a bit more. As we go into the benefits of a requirements gathering, we talk about improving communication skill. As early we mentioned, some of us, when we started a project, if you are lucky, you will be assigned to a new project where the whole group is new, then you can have your ice-breaking session, then you can get to know along your stakeholders, your project team members very well. Some of us sometimes are being very at a very unfortunate environment where we need to start picking up other people's projects, and those projects are in mid-flight. So everyone has been working very well with each other, and then you are the only team member within the team that is new. How are you going to work with them? So using NLP, we can break the ice, improve our communication, and it also improve the understanding of our stakeholders. I will share some basic techniques that you can quickly adopt and use. So, and it's also helping us to understand and identify the underlying motives and needs for each of our shareholders when they give up requirements. And when we talk, when the requirement is being gathered, we also want to increase the effectiveness of getting the requirements out from our business stakeholders or our project team members. So the first technique I'm going to share with everyone, it's known as building rapport. I believe everyone in the session here knows what is rapport. When we try to build a very effective rapport, it's having a connection and relationship between two individuals or more individuals with the condition of you have mutual trust among the individuals, and then you have mutual agreement. Having rapport, when you have rapport and you do not have a mutual trust and an understanding or agreement within the two individuals or a group of individuals, sometimes when you propose an idea during your requirement gathering workshop or discussion, might spike a debate. So, for example, I've recently been assigned to do a new project. This is in my organization, I am working on a general meeting management system. It's an old legacy system that is in my organization, and I have zero knowledge about that system. And this system needs to be integrated to a new system. When we are in the midst of discussion, there are two new team members that has been introduced to the team, which I have connection with them. In the usual scenario, if I start asking them question, very brutal and straightforward question like, why are you if I were to do something like this, why this system is such an old legacy system, you are still using it? What is the purpose of all this? If you go through this way, those two stakeholders will definitely being very offended and they'll start whole gang up. So the first question I would usually ask is, oh, in this situation, may I know what is the benefit of having this system that you've used since you have using it for so long? Could you explain a bit more to me so I can have an idea? So at this point of time, I'm trying to build a rapport with them to tell them I am here to assist, not to chase them away. At least when their guards are down, their defense are down, they will feel better. Building rapport can through having getting an understanding from them and make them open up, feel friendly, feel warm, and then you'll be able to get information and requirements from them easily. So we move on. The second technique is as reframing. Reframing, I bet every one of us use it on a very often manner. Reframing here in the NLP terminology is we want to reframe from a negative situation to a positive situation, or we change the perspective of how people looking things. Reframe doesn't mean we when we use reframe, we usually would want them to feel better, especially when we are doing new projects or running new workshops that some individuals or the team member are being being threatened. I guess I would say every one of us would have done tasks, assignments, or even requirement gathering where involve cost cutting, process engineering that will definitely have team members or the department members shifting from one department to another department or retrenching people in such way or the other manner. So in this kind of scenario, reframing is a technique is always very good to use. Because when we go into that kind of scenario on requirement gathering, before we started, we should frame the scenario and say such example. Just now, given the example, I would say we are here to assist. Sorry, let me take a step back. Let's say we are doing a project of process re-engineering. When we are doing process re-engineering projects, usually we are sending out a message such as, oh, we are taking away your job and putting in some automation into it. At that stage of point in time, usually the people that involved in the project, they will feel very offended. So indirectly, they will say, oh, now you're telling me what I am doing is not so good. You are trying to put in new process, new automation to replace me. Is that correct? If the message was not clearly cascaded, or even the purpose of the project was not clearly explained to the people involved, when we are trying to gather requirements to build up the automation or clean up the process itself, we will receive blockers. So in this kind of scenario, we need to reframe, and we need to set a frame to our stakeholders and state to them, such as, I am here to assist. What you have doing is excellent. And I think we can do it even better. If you tell me what is the current challenge you are facing, with your input, and then can improve this process by saving your time, saving your energy or cost. So we have switched the situation from a negative situation to a positive situation, and we change the people's perspective from that manner. Then our stakeholders will be able or more openly to discuss with us. As we move on, aside from reframing rapport, as a business analyst, I think we always finding ourselves processing different pieces of information. And sometimes we are jumping from one information to another. And at some point of time, we might be jumping up and down in information. When I say jumping up and down in information, I'm referring to chunks of information. Some of our stakeholders, like if we are speaking to project sponsors or the senior management that is involved in the project, they always love to use the word, give me the big picture. I don't want the details. If we are talking to operations stakeholders or the one who are in the working group, then they'll tell you, please give me the details. I need to know what's the details, and I don't want the big picture. These are scenarios we will be jumping in and out of information. So the next technique we are talking about is chunking, how we process information. And information does come in chunk levels. It depends, it's either a big chunk or a small chunk. It's in different chunk manners. As a business analyst, we need to be flexible, and chunking up and down is a very challenging exercise, I would say. Not every one of us are good in jumping up into the big picture and straight dwell down into details. So at this point, I would like to share an exercise or even a mini game with everyone on how you could practice chunking. Okay, this game is like this. You will pick an item that you can chunk up and chunk down. Let's say the topic of chunking, I would say transportation. If when you want to do transportation, we chunk up a level. We'll ask, what's the purpose of transportation? The purpose of transportation would be helping us travel from one place to another place, correct? That's how you chunk up. When we chunk up, we are referring, we can see a bigger picture of how transportation would serve us. And transportation, we chunk down a level. We start going into detail. So when we go into details, then the next question is, what type of transportation there are available? Then we will start to have the idea of there is land transportation, water transportation, and air transportation. What are these? Then we chunk down into a second level. Then we say, if we have land transportation, we have trains, car, etc. That is how you chunk down. So this is an exercise that every one of us can practice on doing the chunking levels. So the more you practice, the better you are. So and the outcome is, when you are speaking with different levels of stakeholder, let's say in the morning, you are having a discussion with your project sponsor about the progress or the requirement, the whole level of the project or the task that you're working. Assumptionally, not all project sponsor will want to know the details. So how would you be able to present your task in a big picture manner? If in the midst of the discussion, suddenly someone just came in and you know this personnel is from the working group, how you would be able to switch from a big picture to a detail level for this personnel in the working group to get to know, to see the progress. This is just now, that exercise will help us to be able to switch and present the details as and when we want to speak to who is our target audience. Okay. Next, when we just now, the 3 techniques, it's a very common techniques that we can be applying on our daily basis as a business analyst. So having this technique, I would encourage you to apply this technique and see and observe what result you will have in your requirements gathering. So having this, we can have better understanding to our stakeholder needs and better collaboration with our stakeholders, because the way we communicate change, and it's also giving a better result on your requirement gathering. So I think this is all my sharing as of now. I'll pass back to Wan Fei, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Yoke. And I think you just set a good example of how to chunk down all this information. I mean, NLP technology to us who are new to this knowledge area. Thank you so much for sharing this 3 easily used techniques: building rapport, reframing, and chunking. So let's come to the Q&A session, see if there's any question popped up. Just give me a second, bear with me. You can either use Slido and to drop your question here. There we go, we have one. Do you have small talks with stakeholders when having requirement gathering session?
Yes, if I would encourage you to have small talks before starting your requirement gathering session. For me personally, before my session start, I will always go into a discussion 5 to 10 minutes earlier, so that I would know if this is a new project. Let's say this is a new task, new assignment, or new project. Then when I say new project, it's in my definition is to me myself, because I might be assigned to in-flight projects, or this is a project that has been working for some time, and because they do not have any BAs and they need me to assist, then to them it's a work in progress. For me myself, I am new. Then I would definitely go in 5 to 10 minutes earlier to have small talks to find out what's this project about, how this of stakeholders behave. So using just now those techniques as starting at building rapport. So small talk does help to build rapport with your stakeholders, and try to listen to them, like what are their preferred techniques of communication? Are they an auditory person, or they are a visual kind of person, or they are a kinesthetic? So you can catch words such as those terms that can be easily catch, such as if it's an auditory person, they will always love to use the word, "This sounds like a good idea." I it's They will always use music or sound related wording. If people that is a very visual, then they will start to say, "I love to see this being illustrated. Can you display something for me? I see." These are more for visual. If the personnel are very kinesthetic, they will always love to use the obvious word, "I think," "I feel." So you'll be able to catch them. I hope I have answered the question for the part one.
Thank you. So the
So
next one is how to make online requirement elicitation session effective using the NLP techniques or others.
okay, this is a very good question. Nowadays, every one of us work remotely.
True.
When in the old days, they will say, and there's a lot of people would say, NLP techniques only work when it's face to face. It's very challenging if you are not doing face to face session. As in right now, I am seeing everyone 1,000 miles away from me. So how am I able to gauge, are you guys doing well? So from NLP techniques, there is a technique known as sensory acuity. Sensory acuity, I would say before I go on to it, in NLP, there are 40 over techniques that can be applied. And I'm just sharing those basic techniques that can be easily picked up and learned. One of them is known as sensory acuity. What the sensory acuity means is you observe people's five senses. Do they have tonality change in their voice? Does the tonality suddenly go, "Hey, why are you doing like that?" Like just spike up, or they go like very lethargic and they say, "Today is a Friday, everyone should be happy." And then suddenly you hear a tone like, "I don't feel like doing this. It's just so stressful." Then are you able to pick this up? Or some people, they will have minute changes. Their tone is always monotonous. "How are you?" "I'm good." "It's a Friday." Then you feel very excited. "It's a Friday." "Yeah, I know it's a Friday. What's expect? What's heck?" So their tonality is really monotonous. How are you going to pick that up? And when we are doing video conference, not every one of us is going to stick our face near to the camera. Some of us will freeze the camera, and how you're going to see the minute face changes. All this needs true practice. And how I do my practices is I start picking on my family members. So when they try to observe the changes such as their tone, their facial emotion, to learn, these kind of techniques also will help you to elicit, start to gather your requirement effectively on during online session, especially the tonality itself. So be a bit sensitive towards people's tone, whether they are tired or they are feeling down. If you can hear the slight difference and ask a message that, are you okay? Is that something I said that upsets you or others? They will feel that you did notice, and it will help. It does help you in improve your requirement gathering session. And yeah, there is a long list of NLP techniques. If aside from NLP techniques, as a business, I would also chuck in, if there is this requirement elicitation session, and you get to know some of your stakeholders. They are very visual kind of stakeholders. I would recommend you to prepare workflow or use case to present your understanding or what you know, because this will definitely help to facilitate the discussion. If the whole session has already went to a stage where the requirement is being gathered, and right now it's your turn to present the possible solution or changes to make. So I would recommend to have workflow plus mock screen or mock screens or flow of how the system is going to work. If you can combine the mock screens and the workflow together, it will definitely facilitate your requirement even better, because users or your stakeholders does not need to think or even visualize very hard. They can see how the step-by-step solution will impact on them.
Great, thank you. So workflow and mock screening, right? Move to the next one. What do you feel are some of the cultural nuances that make New Zealand different to other markets when engaging with stakeholders? I'm sorry to mention that Yuki is locating at Malaysia, but she has experience working with people from different countries, right?
Yes, I've been working with stakeholders in New Zealand for almost 2 years now. That was previously cultural wise is very different. From Malay, I'll just put in some context as in Malaysia, UK, and New Zealand. So cultural wise is very different. From people like Malaysian, we tend to work long hours. When I say long hours, I'm seriously meaning with long hours. When I used to do the New Zealand project, I wake up 4 a.m. Malaysia or Beijing time, and my finished working hours will be 6 or 7 p.m. Malaysia or Beijing time, because I need to serve my New Zealand counterpart, where they start I think 4 a.m., which is about 8 or 9 a.m. New Zealand time, and they finish on dot. When they say it's 5 p.m., they will finish, no overtime. So during that time when I first onboarded on the New Zealand project, it's frustrated. It's really frustrated because I do not know the culture. After a while, then I get to know the culture is very different from how people work in the UK and how people work differently in the New Zealand. And I feel personally, this is a very person-to-person experience. What I've said might not be agreed in a group because different people coming from different exposure and different background. So it's really the experiences you gain and the people you work along the way, giving you a better understanding how should you work with your stakeholders. I would just give you an overview or even a slight guideline on how you can go through this. And please do not take my word by word for it and apply those kind of rules because different people behave differently. And I would encourage you to use those NLP techniques I've just shared and observe how this will help you work and facilitate even better and communicate better with your stakeholders.
Yes. Thank you. Let's move to the next one. How to work with introvert stakeholders or quiet stakeholders during requirement gathering session?
Okay, I will break this question into two segments. Introvert stakeholders and quiet stakeholders. Okay, if we do have stakeholders which are not very actively participate in discussion. So usually this kind of stakeholders, I would give an yes or no question. It's like an open-ended question. So they will need to make a decision. Will they do it or will they not do it? You just can't I would not recommend to do any open question. When you have an open question or open platform or decision for them, you will never get an outcome for them. So open-ended is always a best choice to use because you would like to get feedback from quiet stakeholders. So asking open-ended questions or giving them choices to make, like in a scenario where you gather the requirement and you have come up with some solution. So the solution can be A, B, or C. So every one of them needs to, all your stakeholders in the discussion room you would need to encourage them to vote for the solution they want. If, let's say there's 10% and only you get nine votes, which one of them is not voting, then you might want to go to them quietly and after the discussion and ask which would be your preferable solution so that I can work on the requirement and make it better. This is how I would recommend for the quiet stakeholders. Okay, the introvert stakeholders, it's a very challenging manner because you need to, I did come across this kind of stakeholders before. You need to build relationship, build rapport with them. So when I say build relationship, build rapport with them, meaning if this introvert stakeholder of yours is one of your key stakeholders, then I would encourage you, spend a bit more time, get to know her. Because I myself, I'm also an introvert. I do not like to communicate and I do not like to work with people. So sometimes I will question myself, why I choose a path to become a business analyst, why I choose a path to become, even go and take up NLP to train. Then I realize, because I'm an introvert, I might be able to identify how other introvert stakeholders behave. So when how they behave and how can I build relationship with them. So then I can relate. So when in this kind of manner, I would recommend to build a relationship with them aside from doing your project. The relationship can be, if your introvert stakeholder is your key stakeholder, at the same time, with a condition you need to go to office on a regular basis, make her your lunch buddy or a tea buddy, that you will build a relationship with her as to he or she on this kind of manner. That is one of a good way. Or having small conversations, small talks, that is one way of building a rapport and gaining trust, a mutual trust and mutual understanding between you and her as a stakeholder. Bear in mind, we need to be professional. If the trust has been gained from an introvert stakeholder, please do not break those kind of trust. Once you break an introvert stakeholder's trust, it's gone case. It's very hard to regain because they will feel you have betrayed them and they will no longer want to be friends or even start to communicate with you. So this is just a personal note to share.
Thank you, Yuki, for this information. Yes, quite challenging. So I think in a word, just build a rapport, spend a bit more time with this kind of stakeholders,
Yes.
build a mutual
Yep.
trust. So I think the next one is, where can we learn about more NLP techniques?
Okay, there are lots of there's a lots of books around in the market that is talking about NLP. Well, there is a few ways for you to learn NLP. One is signing up courses. There is NLP courses. And secondly, it's to do read-ups. And thirdly, if you can find, if someone around your organization, you find someone is practicing NLP, you can learn from them. So personally, I would recommend you to sign up courses. Courses is I would not recommend you to do those self-study online courses. Reason being is NLP techniques. If you want to master the NLP techniques, you need to practice it. And the best way to practice it is to find courses that has trainers there that could help you to practice each and every single technique. And then they will give an explanation why we are using this technique, for what is the purpose and the reason behind this technique is being developed, and how this kind of technique can be applied to different scenario. Because if you subscribe for online courses, I'm not stopping you to do so. If you would like to do it, please go ahead. If you would like to do online courses that is self-study, it can be done as well. It's just you take a longer time. And some of the techniques I personally found out those online courses are not very clearly elaborate and illustrated. Give an example as in when we talk about language pattern. If they start talking about language pattern, how you're going to apply those language pattern, you will start getting yourself lost, because the first question will come into mind is, what is language pattern? How this language pattern can affect us being a good communicator. So having a instructor-based environment would helps a lot.
Oh, thank you. There were two more questions pop up.
Yep.
One is how to manage the requirement meeting gracefully when someone talks too much or go off the topic.
Oh, I think this is something very common in our workshop session. I have this all the time. So I would share some of my practices to you. So if, let's say, one of my stakeholders are very happily giving speech away, usually I will look at the time first, and the time and start and when I look at the time, let's say he or she has been non-stop speaking for the past 10 to 15 minutes, and know that everyone are eagerly to end this session, then this is how I usually would do. Mr. So and so or Miss So and so, thank you for all your supplemented points. I have already taken note. So may I just summarize what you have said, and this would benefit A, B, C, D, E. Interrupt them nicely and explain and say, thank you for your input. Very important. If you say thank you for your input, they will feel that they have contributed a lot, even though they are talking nonsense. We know that in our heart, we know the stakeholder has been babbling away about all nonsense. Every time when a stakeholder is talking too much, so the first thing is, thank you for your idea. I really appreciate what you have shared. I agree with you. Use this kind of positive statements. Please do bear in mind when you use positive statement in front, like, I agree with you, I appreciate, I respect. These are the positive statement. Please do not have a negative conjunction word. The negative conjunction word is but, nevertheless, although, however. If using this kind of negative conjunction word in a communication, the person will straightly put on a straight face, a black face, and looking at you, giving you an evil eye. So you're telling me I talk too much. So always go with this pattern. Grammatically is not wrong, okay? I'm not here to correct everyone's grammar. I'm here to assist how you can gracefully stop your stakeholders from continue giving their speech. I appreciate, I respect, I agree, thank you. And use the word and, A-N-D, and that is brilliant, that is wonderful. And I think we can talk more after this discussion session. And I want to learn more from you about your fantastic, brilliant idea. And can I pass? And I see someone else would want to chip in. So swiftly, you just change. So that person will say, yeah, I think I've given enough. And these people totally agree with what I say. if in the situation you start using, I agree with you, but you will see a facial swift, or the tonality change from a very happy, exciting way of talking. Suddenly, the voice become very tense, deep down, and monotonous. So try to avoid negative conjunction words. Not to say it's wrong. It's just when we communicate, in terms of communication, it does have a slight effect on it.
Thank you, Yuki. I think it's not only the slight effect, it will be big effect to show the brilliant and positive and respect language pattern. Let's move on to the next one. How hard is it to get certified as a master NLP practitioner?
It's not that hard. It's not that hard. Okay, there is, okay, simple manner to make things simple for you. There is a lot of Neuro Linguistic Programming certified centers out there. There's a lot of them. I get certified by AB NLP, which is could say the first and the largest NLP group. You basically need to attend a course, pass the exam, and you are an NLP practitioner. In order to become a master NLP practitioner, there is a second level certification you need to go through, where I would recommend you to take it, because once you be able to the master NLP practitioner certification would be good for those BAs are a lead BA or a senior BA. They have subordinates report to them, because master NLP practitioner is more on coaching basis. So you know the techniques on how to coach your junior BAs or the BAs that working with you to find the solution. And again, it's not that difficult to do so.
Cool, thank you. I think there's no question coming up. Do you have any additional information to share with us?
I have plenty. It's just that as I would need to organize it a bit before I share. I would not want to overwhelm everyone.
Sure.
Yeah, Sophie has just shared a link. It's ANLP, and you guys can refer to there. If any one of you are interested in knowing more about NLP, please feel free to reach out to me. I could assist by just a small advertising. I'm also a NLP trainer. So if you would like to know more, you can come to me. I do have NLP training class as well. Thank you.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Thank you, Yuki, so much for the information. And I think we can just start to apply the 3 easily used technique you just mentioned, like building rapport, reframing, and chunking to our work and see how it goes. Nice.
Happy. I would love to hear feedbacks from everyone after you apply it. Does it have any changes? Does it have any roadblocks? Please feel free to have it discussed. And if I could help, I would definitely happy to do so.
Thank you. Thank you, Yuki. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I think that's today's event. And thank you, everyone, to join us. And please watch out our YouTube channel, and we will upload this recording quickly. We'll see you at our next event, Data Storytelling, on the 1st of June by Matt.
Hi, I got a question. So is there any possibility? Yeah, is there any possibility that we can have these slides as well? If it's right things to do, that's fine. Otherwise,
Yoke, is okay?
Yeah. Yes. I'm happy to share the slides.
Sorry.
Okay, so I think it would be great, like last time.
Yeah, sure. So Anthony will wear. Sorry, that's who is speaking. We will share the slides and we'll send our follow-up email and including the sliding.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for that.
No worries. Anyone else has question? If there's no question, or you can leave the comment on our BA Career Meetup group, and we're happy to answer that. Or reach out Yuki on the linking. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next on our 1st of June.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the event.
Thank you. Thanks, UK.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.